Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And good morning to everyone who's on Zoom. I think they're looking at me from back there. And no matter who you are, no matter whom you love, no matter where you are welcome here with us this morning. My name is Kathy Alston. I'll be serving as your worship associate, leading worship along with our speaker, Latifah Griffin-Rogers. And Joy Thiessen is going to be providing music this morning. I would like to thank the members of our tech team this morning who are back there in the booth, the members of our hospitality team that greeted us this morning, and also our online host. I also want to give a special thanks this morning to Don Sloat, who updated our PowerPoint presentation so that the Spirit of Life words as well as the motions are going to be on the screen. That was no easy feat, so thanks for that, Don. So back to Latifah. Latifah Griffin-Rogers earned a Master's of Divinity from Lancaster Theological Seminary. She was raised in Chester, PA, and she works as a licensed professional counselor. Latifah's personal mission is to enlighten others to our interconnectedness as humans. She was baptized in the Baptist tradition as a teenager, and after a long discernment process, she found a new spiritual community in the Unitarian Universalist tradition in 2018 as a member of First Unitarian Church of Wilmington. She enjoys relaxing, spending time with her family, her wife Keisha, and their 5 young people, plus their snake, turtle, and dog, reading, learning new things, and trying new foods. And she recently accepted an interim director of spiritual development position at Unitary Society of Germantown, which began on July the 1st. So if you're viewing us on Zoom, please remember that you can activate your closed captioning if that's helpful to you. And if you'd like to talk with others online after the service, there will be a virtual coffee hour. Just stay logged in and you'll be invited to a breakout room. So please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, O Life That Matters, All Things New. Oh, Life That Makes All Things New. And then please remain standing after the hymn for our covenant. Please join us now in reciting our covenant together. The words will be on the screen. Enriched by our differences and joined together in our search for meaning, we covenant with ourselves and each other to seek truth in a spirit of love, to strive for justice, and to serve others with a joyful heart.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning, we light our chalice for those who have yet to find their way here. May the light from this flame guide their way. Amen.
Each week we gather in community, carrying what we carry. We may be feeling full of joy or full of sorrow. We honor whatever it is we're feeling, wherever we are, by dropping stones of joy or sorrow into our bowl, or if you're joining us online, by sharing in the chat. All are welcome to come forward and drop a stone.
I dropped the stone for both the online community and the members of the community who are not with us today. Let us take a moment to hear these words in contemplation. of contemplation. Spirit of life, we thank you for allowing us to gather both here and virtually. We bring to light those joys and sorrows, both spoken and unspoken, this morning. May you send healing energy and love to those that need it. And may they know that this beloved community is here for them. Blessed be, and amen.
Please rise in body or in spirit in singing our hymn, Spirit of Life, and you can follow along with the movements that will be on the screen.
I kind of think I'd rather watch the crowd than the video. Was moving too fast for me to catch up. All right, so this morning I have a reading for you, and it's from the Who We Are section of the UUA website on racial justice. And it states, and I quote, "When Dr. Martin Luther King called upon the people of faith in March 1965 to march for civil rights in Selma, Alabama, many Unitarian Universalist ministers and lay people responded. 2 among them were murdered by white supremacists, the Reverend James Reeb and Viola Liuzzo. A few years later, conflict arose over the funds allocated by the UU General Assembly for Black communities, with many white UUs unwilling to cede decision-making authority about how UUs could support Black communities to Black UUs. So damage from this conflict lasted for decades. So responding faithfully to a call from Unitarian Universalists, people of color, Unitarian Universalists are working to uplift and center the voices and perspectives of those who have been historically marginalized. This work continues today, with the UU supporting human rights for documented and undocumented immigrants and refugees, reform of the criminal justice system, and the Black Lives Matter movement." End quote. That is on our website and under the Who We Are section. Now, I'll just segue into
Now is the time in our service when we ask for your financial support for the work of our church here and in the greater community as we side with love in our local area. You can give by text using the information on your screen. Or if you're in the sanctuary and you have a check or something that you want to leave, there are boxes in the back on your way out. Thank you.
All right. Let us take a moment of silence to center ourselves with this moment. Thank you. All right. Just going to get right to it. What is an evangelist? All right, y'all probably were thinking like, what in the world, an evangelist? She gonna talk about today. An evangelist, according to Google, is a person who seeks to convert others to Christian faiths, especially by public preaching. So, in the UUA, do we have evangelists? I think we do, all right? However, I don't think it's in a sense that we think it exists. We aren't converting anyone to Christianity, but we are speaking with the intent or our perspective to be heard, right? I had the privilege of attending General Assembly a few weeks ago in Portland, and overall, it was a fun experience. In the end, I ended up with COVID, but that's a whole nother story. But for those of you who don't know, the General Assembly is an annual gathering of Unitarian Universalists where we conduct our business of the association and we explore theological underpinnings of our faith and lean into fully our mission and principles, or at least that's what we're supposed to do, right? So anyway, I had a little snafu with my accommodations and I needed to change them. So I moved, which made me closer to the convention center, which is where the entire conference was staying, which was great. So I moved from wherever I was staying to across the street from the convention. And I noticed that the evangelists were there, right? And it was interesting because they didn't look like Billy Graham and Tammy Faye Baker. They didn't look like them. They looked like us, right? So I was on my walk from my new accommodations, the Hyatt, on my way to the afternoon workshop when I was accosted by this evangelist. Now, it's not often that I'm approached by a white person. I'm going to be honest. So when this lady walked up on me with a piece of paper, I was excited. So I'm like, I don't look scary today, right? It's all good. I'm approachable looking. So then I found out that these folks were the Fifth Principle Project people. And so that had no meaning to me until after our conversation. Evangelists, right? So let me explain. The Fifth Principle Project is an organic grassroots initiative to gather into community Unitarian Universalists who want to reinvigorate the right of conscious and renew the democratic process in the governing of our denomination. However, they want to do this or renew their democratic process at the behest of our eighth principle. So what is the eighth principle? The eighth principle affirms and promotes journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in this institution. Evangelists, right? Now, what person would want to discourage someone from spiritual wholeness and working to build a multicultural, beloved community? I didn't understand that. What person would want to discourage someone from dismantling racism? And if that's your dream, you shouldn't approach any black person with that message. You shouldn't. I don't care who you are or where you are. I was far away from home. Unitarian Universalist or not, the African American experience here in America is a delicate topic. And unless you're talking about how we can have a seat at the table how we can be a part of the change that's happening, your message will most likely not be heard. But I listened to this evangelist, right? So here's what I was told when I spoke with Dr. Ann Schneider from Arizona State University. She told me this, and this is a summary, not a quote, of our conversation, that the eighth principle is a public policy issue, and it has no place in our religious institution. My rebuttal was, well, we tried the public policy arena on numerous occasions, right? Remember post-slavery, more specifically the civil rights era, right? Where we gained the right to vote, we gained the right to a fair trial, we gained the right to government services, we gained the right to public education. We gained the right to use public facilities that we probably had a hand in building. African Americans have been on this soil for at least 200 years at that point and still had no rights until the 1950s and 60s. And if you are in the LGBTQIA community and you are a person of color, you are still fighting for your civil rights today. If you are an immigrant to this country, you are still fighting for your civil rights. If you are native to America, you are still fighting for your rights. But this evangelist wanted to tell me that this was a public policy issue. I thank my people, and my people are the marginalized, whatever box. I gotta check a lot of them. Having enough experience with public policy to know that we don't want to wait until our grandchildren's grandchildren are grown to see a multicultural, beloved community. I think we tried the government. We tried it. And they have other ways of trying to take the rights away of persons of color, right? Through mass incarceration, through barriers to access to mental and health care, through systemic exclusion to high-paying jobs, or the deliberate construction of food deserts in low-income areas, the blocking of access to clean water in certain areas. I could continue to go on, but this is about evangelizing, right? Folks that want to convert you or to persuade you to see their way without dialogue are dangerous. We have to have a conversation. This woman didn't know me. She didn't care. She didn't want to know my experience. She didn't care about my beliefs. She handed me a piece of paper. She wanted me to convert. She just saw a dark face and said that person would be good for the fifth principle project. And also, I have to say, they were deliberately targeting African Americans at the conference. Evangelists, right? If we're going to evangelize, as you use, let's develop a standardized way of doing so, right? We can't have the disgruntled people evangelizing on our behalf. They're out evangelizing us, actually. They're out there. And they're representing us. In our UUA website, on our values and our history, it states, and I quote, "The UU commitment to building beloved community has roots on both the Unitarian and Universalist sides of our tradition. Beginning with 1648, the Cambridge Platform signed by the English settlers in Dedham, Massachusetts, our self-governing congregations have gathered in the spirit of mutual love. In the late 19th century, Universalism's core message that all are saved through God's love had expanded to embrace the idea that the kingdom of heaven is reflected in love for one another. Both Universalists and Unitarians were involved in a social gospel movement in which Christianity is practiced by serving those on the margins of society. Today, UUs build communities within congregations and also work for the liberation of all people. So somewhere along the line, these fifth principle people have become comfortable with the way things are, or were, because change is upon us, and it's scary, and I get that. But we can't have the wrong people evangelizing the wrong message among us. If we're going to evangelize, we need to be incorporating all of our principles and speaking to anyone that will listen. We cannot be exclusionary, all right? We need to share our message. But what is our message? I think that's a thing too. What is our message? We have differing beliefs. What are we telling people? If you were to tell people about UUism, what would you tell them? And if you look at your neighbor, it's going to be a different story for each of you, right? How do you bring people to this faith tradition? That's what was on my mind in Portland at General Assembly, because they were doing it. They were trying to bring people into their project. How do we get more people that don't look like us here? That don't think like us here? Those are the people that need to be here. Those with differing abilities to teach us patience and empathy and love, unconditional love. This is just as much as a religious institute issue as it is a public policy issue. No matter who you are or what you look like, there should be equity and equality everywhere. And if every denomination, if they say they believe to love God and that they need God for their salvation to heaven, then that community needs to be striving towards a multicultural spiritual community. And every denomination, if they say they believe in God and they need God for their salvation to heaven, then every denomination needs to be striving towards dismantling racism and racists in their community. Why should we be separate? If you are evangelizing for this denomination, make sure you are building bridges and not fences. Make sure you are bringing people together and not drawing them away from the UUA, because there's space for everyone at this table. So please join us. Blessed be, and amen. Now please rise in body and or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, For All That Is My Life.
As we extinguish the chalice flame, please join me in saying the words printed on your screen. Although we now extinguish our chalice flame, may we hold its warmth in our hearts in all the days ahead. Again, I'd like to thank all who made today's worship possible, including tech managers, hospitality members, Joy Thiessen for our music, and Latifah Griffin-Rogers, our speaker, and all who helped to set up for our service today. As a reminder, if those online would like, you can wait for breakout rooms at the end of the service and participate in an online coffee hour.
All right. The time has come. For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come in life, may life return your affection. And for those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Blessed be. Amen. Thank you.
Don't clear off the dishes, I'll do it. I'd rather sit here